Captain Traore, I have heard you. Africa speaks, and Nigeria listens. The case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is before our courts, and I respect the rule of law. But I also respect the voice of a fellow African leader who speaks from conviction. Let me assure you, and assure all of Africa, Nigeria is not afraid of justice. We are not afraid of the truth, and we are not a nation that holds a man forever without resolution. The judiciary will speak, and when it does, Nigeria will honor that verdict fully, transparently, and without compromise. Africa is watching, and Nigeria will not disappoint Africa. But I want to go further than that today, diplomatic because this moment demands honesty. And as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a nation of over 220 million souls, a nation of diversity, of complexity, of history, I owe Africa honesty. Captain Traore, you are a young leader. You came to power with fire in your chest and Africa in your eyes. I respect that, the passion you carry for African sovereignty, for African dignity, for the freedom of African people. That passion is not foreign to me. I have walked long roads in pursuit of justice myself. I know what it means to fight a system. I know what it means to be counted out and to rise anyway. So when you speak about Nnamdi Kanu, I do not hear the voice of interference. I hear the voice of a man who believes that no African should suffer injustice in silence. And on that, Captain, we are not so different. But now let me speak directly, not just to you, Captain, but to every Nigerian, to every son and daughter of the Southeast, to every person who carries the word Biafra in their heart, whether as a wound, a dream, or a warning. African, the name Biafra is not a name I am afraid to say. I say it today, Biafra, because pretending it does not exist has never served Nigeria. The Civil War of 1967 to 1970 was one of the darkest chapters in our shared history. Over 1 million lives, most of them Igbo, were lost. Children starved, families were destroyed, communities were shattered, and for decades, Nigeria asked the Southeast to move on without ever truly sitting down to ask, what do you need to heal? That silence has been costly, and I acknowledge it today without reservation. The agitation for Biafra did not begin with Nnamdi Kanu. It did not begin with IPOB. It began in the unhealed wounds of a war that ended in 1970, but whose pain never truly ended for the Igbo people. When a man raises his voice and millions follow him, a wise government does not ask only, how do we silence him? A wise government asks, what are these millions trying to tell us? That is the question I have asked myself about Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. I want to be clear about who Nnamdi Kanu is within the story of Nigeria. He is a man who was born in Abia State, who grew up with Igbo identity running deep in his veins, who went to the United Kingdom, built a radio platform, and used it to amplify a message that resonated with millions of Southeast Nigerians and diaspora communities across the world. You may agree with him, you may disagree with him, but you cannot dismiss what his following represents. His following is not an accident, it is a symptom. And symptoms do not disappear when you detain the man, they grow. His arrest in 2015, his detention, his escape, his extraordinary rendition from Kenya in 2021, all of this has made him larger in the imagination of his supporters than any court can contain. I understand that. My government understands that. And it is precisely why I am committed to ensuring that this matter reaches a lawful, transparent, and final conclusion. One that Nigeria can stand behind before the world. Now let me speak about the Southeast directly. The Igbo nation is not a footnote in the story of Nigeria. The Igbo people built this country with their hands. They rebuilt it after the Civil War with nothing but resilience and intelligence. Lagos, the city I governed for 8 years, was built in significant part by Igbo enterprise. Aba, Onitsha, Enugu, these are engines of Nigerian commerce. The Southeast does not ask for charity. It never has. It asks for equity. It asks for inclusion.
It asks for infrastructure that matches its contribution. It asks to be seen. Under my administration, that changes. I am not making a campaign promise today. The campaign is over. I am making a presidential commitment. The second Niger bridge is complete. That was a symbol, but symbols must be followed by substance. We are committed to federal presence in the southeast in a way that matches the region's importance to this nation's future. Roads, rail, ports, investment. These are not gifts, they are obligations, and I intend to meet them. On the question of restructuring, which sits underneath much of the Southeast political frustration, I say this: Nigeria's federal structure must evolve. A country this large, this diverse, this complex, cannot be governed effectively from the center alone. Devolution of power, resource control, state police. These are conversations whose time has come, and my administration will not run from them. To the millions of IPOB supporters inside Nigeria and in the diaspora, I say this carefully and sincerely. Your love for the Igbo people is not in question. Your desire to see justice for Nnamdi Kanu is not in question. But the path forward for the Southeast is not separation. It is transformation. It is building the political power within Nigeria's democracy to demand and receive what is rightfully yours. That path is harder, it is slower, but it is the path that builds something lasting for your children and your children's children. The Biafra as a memory must be honored. Biafra as a wound must be healed. But Biafra as a future, I believe with everything in me, is not the answer to the legitimate grievances of the Southeast. A united, restructured, equitable Nigeria is, and to you, Captain Ibrahim Traore, I return to where I began. Thank you for raising your voice, not because Nigeria requires external validation, but because your voice reminded this continent that justice is not a Nigerian conversation alone. It is an African conversation. And Africa is watching. Nigeria will not disappoint. The resolution of the Kanu matter is closer than the world knows. The healing of the Southeast is a project this administration has accepted. And the future of this great, complex, magnificent country, one Nigeria, remains our collective responsibility. We move together forward.